Today, I'll teach you how to ferment potentially one of the easiest things to ferment. We're going to combine lactobacillus strains, which are amazing for your gut health, and simple ingredients you probably already have in your cabinet that are great for boosting immunity and fighting inflammation. We're going to ferment garlic in honey. Both garlic and honey have antimicrobial properties, and there have been studies that show that when you combine the two, they can even fight off bacteria that cause infections such as pneumonia. Oh, but wait. What about botulism? That's the big elephant in the room that we're gonna address. I'll teach you how to keep your little garlic cloves nice and safe. But don't feed this to a child under 1 year old. First, start with a sterilized glass. You can boil this, or if you have something like an Instant Pot, just put it in and use the steam or sterilized setting, whatever yours has. Along the same lines, start with organic garlic. The fewer pesticides we can ferment, the better. Give your garlic a good smush, peel, then rinse and dry. Some of your garlic may already be crushed from when you were getting the skin off, but for the other pieces, go ahead and slice each clove in half or so. This, non-scientifically speaking, just helps them release their juices, which will help speed up the fermentation process for those little microbes. Throw all of your garlic cloves into your jar. Next, make sure you're using raw honey. Raw honey is unpasteurized, meaning it retains the natural enzymes and wild yeast that you need for fermentation. Pasteurized honey, on the other hand, has been heated, which destroys these beneficial microorganisms. Check out my video on how to make sure you're getting raw honey. Most of the honey, I'd say 90+% that's in the grocery stores is not raw honey. Typically, I buy mine straight from a beekeeper. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, all you do is throw a bunch of this lovely raw honey into your jar and make sure it fully coats your garlic. If your honey is a bit hard, like mine, no big deal. Now that you've got everything nicely mixed, and I have left some space at the top for gas expansion, throw your lid on, screw it on nice and tight, and put this in a cool, dark place. Nothing crazy. You just don't want to put the honey where it's super hot and sunny. We don't want to speed up the fermentation process too much. Then daily for about a week, and then every few days for the second week, you're gonna burp your jar just by opening the lid and putting it right back on. This helps let any gases that the fermentation process has produced escape so that your glass doesn't blow up. You're also going to flip your jar over to make sure all the garlic is fully coated in honey, and leave it again to ferment. We always want our garlic to have a nice protective layer of honey to keep it from being exposed to air. When fermenting, you want an anaerobic environment. After about 2 weeks, the fermentation slows down and burping isn't really necessary. You can check on it occasionally just to make sure things are looking good, and maybe burp it, turn it over if you think about it, but you're probably not going to get much pressure buildup at that point. If you want to get more technical and ensure your garlic stays completely submerged, you can use a fermenting weight like the one I have here. You could also use a special fermenting lid to make sure that no oxygen gets in, but CO2 is able to get out. And that way you don't have to burp your jar at all. There are other lids also. I don't personally feel like for this type of ferment, either of these are necessary, so save your money. Now, ferment your garlic for approximately 1 month, ideally for full fermentation benefits and to let the garlic flavor mellow. As long as your garlic stays submerged in the honey and it's stored in a cool, dark place, you could store it indefinitely at room temperature. However, if it's too hot of an environment, this could lead to over-fermentation, which could result in an overly strong or unpleasant flavor. Otherwise, if it's reached its desired flavor, you can go ahead and put it in the refrigerator and it will last you for a good year or two, as long as you're using clean utensils to prevent contamination. Okay, so that elephant in the room that's called botulism, let's talk about it. We worry about botulism when the honey's pH is above 4.6. Raw honey generally has a pH below 4.6, but not always. Here are some honeys with pH values below 4.6, but here are some with pH values above. Also, garlic has a pH of 5.3 to 6.3, which is already above that 4.6. Luckily, raw honey is low in water, which helps naturally inhibit bacterial growth, But then you add garlic and that releases moisture. See how much more liquid this is than how it started? But luckily, as the garlic ferments, beneficial bacteria produce acids, which lowers the pH. So what's the pH at this point? And what about botulism? You have every right to be confused. Let me clear it up for you. First of all, I don't think there are any documented cases of botulism from fermented garlic in honey, so that's great. So the overarching likelihood is that you will be fine. But now that you know there is still a chance of having botulism because your pH is potentially too high, that's just not ideal either. So here are a few things you can do to be sure you're safe. Number one, use honey with a low pH to begin with. This way, when you add the garlic, you're gonna still be below 4.6. Number two, you could buy a pH meter like the one I have here if you just really wanna be accurate. Don't buy the little pH strips that are a lot cheaper because they just give you too big of a range, so you could still fall above the 4.6 and not know it. So yeah, this has been doing its thing for a month. I've already been digging in, but it tastes quite good. It's great for salad dressings if you don't want to just eat it like this. If you feel like you're getting sick, have this a few times a day. And remember to eat real food. I'll see you next time.